You are listening to the We Are West Ham podcast, and this is the Opposition View with me, Will Pugh, and Joe from TurfCast, the Burnley FC fan channel, ahead of this weekend's game, West Ham United against the Clarets in the Premier League. Joe, great to have you back on the show again. I'll be honest, and I think I've spoken about this before, I was a little bit gutted when you went down. I absolutely love a trip up to Turf Moor. Me and my dad became a bit of a weird tradition. I think I've been up there about 6 or 7 times for West Ham games. Not able to go this weekend, unfortunately. So I was glad when you guys got promoted again back in the Premier League. Got a little soft spot for you lot up there at Turf Moor. Not going particularly well this season, mate. Bottom of the table. Minus 21 goal difference, I believe. Lost every game at home, 4 points. Won a win against Luton and then a draw, I think, against Forest. How are you feeling? How are you among all that?
Well, yeah, it's not been the best start. And, you know, the worst thing about it is I came up with some expectation this year because of how good we were last year. And obviously, with the manager that we've got now in Vincent Kompany, who wants to play in a certain way. And, you know, and there were talks about us being the best ever championship side last season. You know, there were a lot of talk about us beating Reading's record points total. And if we didn't get promoted so early, I think we potentially could have beat that. But we kind of took our foot off the gas after we got promoted and then didn't come anywhere near it, to be fair. Well, 5 points. But I'd take winning the league at Ewood over that total, to be honest. So, you know, it all's well. Yeah, so I came up with some expectation. I did some work for some like bookies and stuff who do some bits with the channel, and I went on the overlap, and I was so confident. And all that stuff out there of me is out there now, being confident, and all these people you can see, like, oh, you remember you saying you think you finish about 12th, 13th? Like, so yeah, not been a great start. We've been, for want of a better phrase, diabolical. What been a pain. Honestly, we've been so bad. Like, I am known for being quite pessimistic, but those last 18 months has turned me. And I remember I did this game. I did the preview for the first game against Man City, and the Man City fan were like, "What's your prediction?" I'm like, 1-1. Yeah, we'll give you a really good game. Obviously, nowhere near. Lay a glove on him. And now I'm back to the pessimistic Joe. Now I'm like, that Palace game, the last game out, I was like, yeah, we're crap. We're not getting out of this. But we need a moment. Like, I look back at some of the seasons we've had before where we started slow. Not this slow, but we still started slow, and we managed to turn it around under Sean Dyche a few times. Obviously, last season in the Prem, obviously we didn't, but we managed to turn it around a few times. And there was always a moment that you can look back on and say that's when the season turned around. And we need one of them. We need one of them now. We're looking at the West Ham game, obviously, as one of them, but I'm sure we'll get into it. It's whether or not it comes here is a different debate. But obviously, we've got you, then Sheffield United, then another 4 games against teams that are, you know, not the big 6 or 7 as it is now at Newcastle. So, yeah, a big chance to get points from now until the 23rd of December. So the 23rd of December, I think, you know, if we carry on playing like we have been, we'll be down and out by then.
Yeah. There's a couple of things I want to talk to you about, really. Firstly, the home form, because Turf Moor typically, I mean, look, I genuinely don't, I'm not doing this to be facetious or try and kick a man or a team while they're down. But it's easy to say the home form's poor, but you know, it's not like your away form's sensational. It's just the few points you have got have come away from home. Yeah, I know it's a bit sort of old football trope, but I feel like, you know, like Burnley typically over the past few seasons. I mean, tell me if I'm chatting out my backside about this, but it always appears to be that, you know, the campaigns you've had when you've stayed up and you've put a good showing across of your team has always sort of been on a pretty strong foundation of home form. And I don't like to, you know, buy into those cliches of it being a difficult place to go, but I just always felt you played your best football at Turf Moor at home. Yeah. Bit of a different environment for some teams to play football in. That seems to have sort of, I don't know, disappeared. Is that fair to say? Or is it just, it doesn't really, you know, worse at home than away?
It'd be difficult for me to argue against that if, you know, with the season that we've had so far. Like you mentioned it already, every single game at home we've lost. We haven't got 1 point at home. I think that's what 6 games. So it's 6 games, 6 defeats. We've conceded 5 against Spurs, 4 against Chelsea. It's not been enjoyable going on to the match recently. If I'm being brutally honest, I actually haven't seen us get a point yet this season. I've been to a few away games, but Forest and Luton were both midweek, and having a 5-year-old and stuff like that, going midweek is very difficult for me. So I very rarely get to go midweek. But I haven't actually seen us get a point yet this season, and it's November, and I probably won't get to see us get a point until December at the latest. Because maybe. Yeah, so it's on the time of recording this, the 21st. For us to get a point, for us to get a point against anybody, it would have to be against you. And I don't. You've got a few injuries, and we'll get into it, but I still can't see it. To be honest, but no. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, go on, mate. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, but I can't argue about the home form there because the stats prove that we are dreadful at home.
You've had some difficult teams. I'm just looking now: City, Villa, Tottenham, Man United, and Chelsea, and then obviously Palace was probably the first one where you'd hope to give a bit of a better performance against yourself. Like all of those teams are sort of, fairly intimidating and talented opposition.
Yeah.
So I guess if you looked at it at the beginning of the season, regardless of when the games were, they might be ones that like Clarets fans might have just gone, you know what, we're probably going to lose them anyway, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the first few games, I remember every full-time show, I'd be like, it's fine. We've lost against City. It's not the end of the world. Then we've lost against Spurs,
Villa in the top 5.
Villa, we kept coming onto the show and saying that. And after about 6 games, you're like, okay, fair enough. Yeah, we've had a difficult start. But we're 12 games in now. And the last few games, forget the Arsenal match because that's another one where you just write it off. You shouldn't be in a position where you just write games off, but that's the situation we are in.
That is the nature of the Prem a lot more.
It is a bit,
isn't it?
It's quite annoying that. Yeah, it is quite annoying. But you shouldn't. I get a lot of criticism on Twitter for saying write this game off. It's fine there, but you should never write games off. So I just thought I'd get that in there. But then we went on and we played Brentford away, who had only won once at that point in the season. Got absolutely smashed. Torn apart. Like that's the worst I've seen us play this season. Then we played Palace at home. This might not be in the right order. We played Bournemouth away first, I think, and went 1-0 up and threw it away. That were the first game they'd won that season. They hadn't won yet. That was the first game they'd won that season. And then Palace at home. You mentioned it already. I said, no, it's a game where if you want to stay up, you've got to be beating teams like that. And I mean it with the greatest respect to Palace, but they hadn't been great at that point. So
they're not historic right away either, are they? Palace?
Yeah, but it's them 3 games that have proper turned me and been like, wow, we are pretty poor.
Yeah. And that's what I spent a lot of my podcast most of this season. I mean, I'm a Moyes sort of man anyway. And I'm banging my head against the wall, listening to West Ham fans calling for the greatest manager in the modern era we've ever had to be sacked. Especially when, we were ninth in the table. Sorry, we are ninth in the table. Beat Arsenal in the League Cup and top of our Europa League group. What more do you want? With West Ham, and all that. That's what I've been spending most podcasts every week going. We've had tough games. To be ninth after the games we've had. Fans just ignore that. They just look at the amount of games we've played and the amount of points we got and go, it's a disgrace or whatever. And I'm just like, well, we've played 5 of the current top 7, I think. It's just, it really does sort of annoy me sometimes. So I guess your home form, and it's all those arguments like that. And it sounds like that's what you've been saying as well in your pod. But all those arguments like that you do get made to look a bit silly. When you lose the games that you should
exactly
win.
That
we lost home to Everton, and I was like, "Oh right, well, I haven't really got a leg to stand on anymore."
Yeah, I mean, there's a few of us that do the full-time show on the podcast, and one of them were quite outspoken at the start when I was saying, "Look, just forget about it." Like, yes, we played crap, but it was against Man City. Well, we didn't work that bad against Man City actually. Like, yes, we played crap, but it was against Spurs. Yes, we played crap, but it was against United. Yes, and then after that, he's like, "Yeah, but you can't just keep saying if we were going down with battering performances or something like that, then I'd understand it." And I'm just like, let's just judge them on these next 3 games, and you go into these next 3 games and you lose them all with a whimper. And I was like, what can I say? Like, and now we're back into a set of games now, probably after you, but it's weird with West Ham because you never know which West Ham are going to turn up. Even now, even though I think you're a better side these days than what you were 5 years ago, I still feel like if we catch West Ham on a bad day and we play to the levels that we got to last season, we'd have to change completely from what we've shown this season. Then we could get a result, but then after that, you've got Sheffield United at home, and then if we lose these next 2 matches, I think that's us completely gone. But yeah, we've had a patch of them 3 matches where we lost them all with a whimper. And I was like, wow, yeah, I can't really defend them. Then we got beat against Arsenal and we were a bit better. But yeah, we're going back into some very important games now. So it'd be interesting to see where we are, especially on the 23rd of December.
Joe, talk to me then just briefly about Vincent Kompany. Obviously, he represents a complete about turn in the direction Burnley wanted to go in. Sean Dyche, legend at your club, for what he did over such a long period of time. But obviously there was a particular label of the type of football attached to that. I personally don't think he's quite as Sam Allardyce, Tony Pulis as people make him out to be. But I think it's more just because he talks with a gruff voice. As you're talking to gruff voices, as you're choking to death on your cup of tea there. But,
so sorry, mate.
Yeah, that's right. You did well to mute it. I was like, the bloke's going to die. I don't want him to just pass out on the podcast. And then Dyche is gone. Kompany in charge now. You mentioned the football you were playing last season, and I think it's it kind of proves a little bit. You have Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp moaning when teams come up and play low block football and all that sort of stuff. But the fact of the matter is, if you come up and try and play football, you've got to be really good. And if you're not, you can get found out quite a lot, make it more difficult for yourself almost. What do you make of Kompany and the style and obviously it worked last season, but what that means for you and your prospects as a mid to long term stable Premier League side again, as you were for so many years under Dyche?
Yeah, well, first of all, sorry, because that was ridiculous.
Now you survived, I can tell you it was funny.
Yeah. 30 seconds after my child walked in as well. So there's been 2 moments in this pod that happened once in a blue moon. So that's ridiculous. So sorry for that, mate. But yeah, Kompany, there's been a very, very few shouts now of we're clearly going to go down with a whimper and get rid of him. And that's just ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. We clearly have a long-term plan. And in my opinion, there's no right way, there's no wrong way to play football. I know some fans are purists and they want to see football played in a certain way. I know West Ham fans will probably be quite vocal about that because there's the West Ham way and stuff like that. And there's certain clubs that want to see football played in a certain way. I think Villa are another one, Arsenal especially. I don't think there's a right way or wrong way. If Dyche wants to set up with 10 men behind the ball and a lump up top and Everton stay up because of that, then he's done his job. Fair play to him. But it's much more entertaining watching your team play and winning the way that we did last season. I've seen Burnley finish 7th in the Prem under Dyche. Last season surpassed that, not in terms of what we achieved, but in my enjoyment watching the club. I've seen us win the championship under Dyche. Winning the championship last season under Kompany was a lot more enjoyable. Yeah, just because of how good we were. We were blowing teams away. Yes, we were good under Dyche in the championship, but we were just blowing teams away. And you were going to games knowing that you were going to watch a very entertaining match. Yeah. So to me, I will never criticise, and it'd be very hypocritical of me if I turned around and I was sort of saying "Oh, Dyche, what a dinosaur," that sort of stuff. Yeah. Because it's the last 18 months of the Dyche reign was turgid. I hated it. Going to the games was boring. The matches were boring. Don't get me wrong; it's not exactly enjoyable right now in the Prem, but it's just that the way that it went, I just didn't like the football. I didn't like the style. And then we were losing.
Time for a change.
Yeah, it was. And, some people now, they still criticise us oh, look at how good Everton are. You should have kept Dyche. There's no way. I don't see what people thought were happening. A change of scenery has done us good, and it's done him good as well. It's the same with Tarkowski.
Everton aren't that good either.
Well, they're better than us. To be fair, they should be better than us. But yeah, it's just, to me, I like I like the way we're trying to do things now. Yes, it might not be working this season. We might have to go down to regroup and come back. But again, that's something we did under Sean anyway. We got relegated in his first season in the Premier League and then went down and came back even stronger. If we have to do that with Vincent, then so be it. I think we'll be a better club for it. But it ties into what the board are trying to do. Like, the board want to change the entire philosophy of the club and the way that the club is viewed by people like yourselves and top six fans and people all over the world. Because if you mention Burnley to a top six fan, they immediately pull the face and go, horrible tin pot club, get them out at Prem and all that sort of stuff. Like, Burnley have a right to be, Burnley have a right to be there just as much as anybody. So do Luton, so do Bournemouth, so do Brentford. You know, there's a group of the smaller clubs. They all got a right to be there. More right than Leeds at the minute because they've earned it.
Mate.
Exactly. But the board are trying to change the way that people view us, and part of that is the style of play. Part of that is the way that we are now being marketed in other countries, having people like J.J. Watt on board, talking about Burnley a lot. Obviously, for those who don't know, a former NFL Hall of Famer, I think. Not into the NFL much, but I know he's a big NFLer. But yeah, so it's a lot of it is centered around that and what the new American owners are trying to do. But I if we go down, there's got to be a level though. Like, at the minute, it's getting quite tedious to watch. Like, we need to start picking up and we need to start improving. But even if we went down, I would hope that we keep Vincent Kompany. But obviously, if we lose every week and beat Derby's record, that's going to become untenable. So we do need to see something to argue with keeping him if we do go down. But in a perfect world, if we go down, obviously in a perfect world we stay up. But in a perfect world, if we go down, I'd keep Kompany and come back stronger with him anyway, with this style, with his philosophy, and then continue the upward trajectory, hopefully.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Right, look, Joe, got the wrap up. So just give us a bit of sort of, what do you think's going to happen? What are you expecting from the game on the weekend, style-wise, and sort of any, I don't know, team news you've got? Like, what are you expecting you guys to set up in the game to play out, and then give us a score prediction to wrap up. Saturday, 3:00, Burnley v West Ham in the Prem.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how you're going to approach this game at the minute because of all the injuries that you've got. I believe Bowen's out. I believe Antonio's out. I think Bowen's 50-50. Yeah.
Details still a bit hazy, but yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully, obviously, I presume your press conference will be on Thursday. I'm not sure when this is going out, but obviously we've recorded this on Tuesday night. But I believe your press conference will be on Thursday. I know ours will. So hopefully we'll have more of a picture at that point. But I think what you need to do is get the ball to Ward-Prowse or somebody that can cross the ball in, because we cannot handle crosses. So if he's injured, then happy days. But just look at the goals that we conceded against Arsenal. 3 crosses, 2 corners, just not commanding the area very well. The goalkeeper was at fault for a couple of issues. The defenders as well. Like, just the entire defensive unit just wasn't good enough in that match. I'm hoping Ekdal is back. He was called up to the Sweden squad for the current internationals, but he's not played yet this season for us, and then called up to the Sweden squad. So he should be back. But interesting to see what we do regarding Lyle Foster as well, because the last news was that he was having some time away from the game due to mental health issues. So obviously the priority is that Lyle gets better. All Burnley fans, the priority is that Lyle gets better. But if Lyle is now feeling up to it and feeling better and he can play on Saturday, and that again gives us a different dynamic. I've got no confidence going into the game at all, though. So I am going to predict probably a 2-0 West Ham win, probably 2 goals from corners, or a James Ward-Prowse free kick, something like that, or a cross. But we'll probably try and play out from the back. We might have more possession than you because we're at home. Yeah. And if you do anything that Palace do, you'll just sit back and hit us on the counter and then win the match, or capitalise on some defensive mistakes, because we made 2 against Palace and conceded 2 goals directly from it. So we'll see. But yeah, if we catch you on a bad day, we might get you. But it depends on the injuries and stuff like that like you've mentioned.
Yeah, Tottenham, I do agree. We're still sort of West Ham at heart. We will still have a bad game in us. I sort of always feel like we do okay at Burnley, and I always look forward to the game and fancy us to get a result sometimes. But it's not always an absolute given. And you're right, it all depends really on how the injuries play out this week, whether Bowen and Antonio can play one or both. whether Mbama plays in. But guarantee you, mate, if Danny Ings starts up front, you've won the game. So I wouldn't be.
Well, you say that he likes a goal against us. Obviously, Burnley
doesn't like a goal at all anymore.
Well, I don't. Well, I'll probably save the question for my podcast mainly because also me and you were going to record something tomorrow on my channel. But I do want to ask you what's gone on there because I've noticed some like anti-Ings comments, and obviously my image of Ings is very well. Yeah, it was quite well. I don't follow that many West Ham pages as yourself and a couple of other podcasts, and I'm seeing some anti-Danny Ings stuff. I'm like, what's gone on there? Like, was a very good footballer. So has the injury just caught up with him? Age caught up with him?
Well, the listeners to my podcast have heard me moan about Danny Ings far too much. The introduction to this week's pod was literally like a 5-minute soliloquy from me about the striker situation. So I will save that one for your pod. Put it this way. The phrase "can't hit a barn door," I think should sums it up quite nicely. But I promise I'll go into a bit more detail on yours when we chat tomorrow. Look, Joe, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on the We Are West Ham podcast again. We always appreciate your time. I've got a soft spot for Burnley. I'm looking forward to the game on Saturday. Important for us and you, I think. That
we need to start getting some points.
Exactly that, mate. Exactly that. But listen, I hope it's not this weekend, but then I hope you do pick up after that and stay in the league for another year. That's Joe there from the TurfCast, Burnley FC fan channel ahead of Saturday, 3:00, Turf Moor, Burnley v West Ham in the Premier League. Thank you to Joe. Thank you lot for listening and watching. I've been Will Pugh. This has been the Opposition View on the We Are West Ham podcast. That's all from me and Jonesy for this week. Enjoy the game on Saturday. We'll be back early next week as usual as we head in to the busy December, end of November festive period, which really can make or break lots of team seasons, including the Hammers. Thanks very much. Up the Hammers. West Ham are still massive. We'll see you next week.